buenos días o buenas tardes, depende de dónde están, y bienvenidos aquí a nuestra sesión, nuestro webinario, hoy con el tema Scrum y ágil en la cadena de compras o Agile Procurement. Mi nombre es Fabian Schwartz, soy el CEO del Scrum Network. Ya hemos hecho varios de estos eventos. Entonces, de pronto me conocen, si no, aquí tienen mi contacto en LinkedIn, si quieren conectar, si no quieren, tampoco pasa nada. Igual les quiero decir bienvenido y les quiero decir, si quieren escuchar la charla en español, tienen que elegir el canal en español. Hay un botón abajo en el menú de Zoom que dice interpretación o traducción simultánea. Okay, aquí tienen que elegir el canal en español. Vamos a grabar la sesión, pero solo podemos grabar en inglés. Entonces, la única manera de escuchar en español es aquí y en vivo. Si tienen preguntas, vamos a contestar lo que podemos al fin de la sesión, pero les quiero pedir el favor que usan la función de Q&A, de respuestas y preguntas y respuestas, perdón. Hay un botón abajo en Zoom que dice Q&A. Como en el chat perdemos un poquito el track de las preguntas. Entonces, si tienen preguntas, por favor, usen el botón Q&A y al fin de la sección vamos a contestar lo que podemos. Veo que aquí todavía hay personas conectándose. Entonces, otra vez, hay traducción simultánea. Por favor, usen el botón traducción simultánea y eligen el canal en español. Y con eso, quiero dar la bienvenida a Mirko Kleiner, el líder mundial del tema Agile Procurement o Scrum y Ágil en la cadena de compras. Y voy a dar la palabra ahora a Mirko. Mirko, nice to have you here with us. I'm really looking forward to your presentation. I know you're a world-renowned expert in Agile Procurement. So the floor is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Fabian. Very nice to inspire you all today, tonight, wherever you're dialing in from. Yeah, so just let me share my screen. So here we go. So let me give you a short introduction. Back five years back, we got in touch with procurement. I'm an agile coach myself, as many of you might be. And yeah, I had a conversation with them, you know, that somehow procurement becomes in our way of agile working. You know, you might have this experience that especially agile delivery teams, Scrum teams could not work under an agile contract. And it's very hard to change that. So in this conversation, I found out that procurement people are not aware of agile per se, and that their whole world, I mean, especially now in our days of the COVID crisis, is transforming radically, because what they are doing and how they are doing, they were no more able to cope with their internal demands on time to market. So we took that as inspiration and said, okay, so let's not take the lean approach and see how procurement works and redesign it and make it more efficient. We really took a more agile, a more out of the box approach and said, okay, what if we need to reinvent the wheel? And if we need to source something super complex, the most complex thing we could imagine, and in just one day, how can agile practices, but also values and principles help us out? And here we are, five years later. We developed a whole new approach, and I'm very happy to inspire you today with some of our cases. I will explain you how we source an ERP system in just 4 weeks. You might not be familiar with that. An ERP system is something super complex. It's a fuzzy screenshot where, you know, it's like a monolith where all the business processes and data, etc., are kept, and the benchmark is the industry benchmark of sourcing something complex like this is between 6 to 12 months. And we did it in 4 weeks. And it's, to be honest, a shame. We could have been much faster, even just do it in 2 weeks. So I will use this story, which we got even awarded by the procurement community last year as a guiding story, and tell you some side stories here and there. So it will be kind of hopefully inspiring for you, even if you are not from procurement, you will be able to follow. So this guy, this story is about this guy. He is the man. He used to be the head of finance of a Swiss company, and he got the task to source a new ERP system, which I just explained. And that was back in late 2018. And this is a very, very simplified value stream, if you will, from idea, we need a new ERP system, till delivery. And what it basically says, and Daniel was aware of that in ideation, we need something new, we are super agile. Also in delivery, we are agile, but all the way through we aren't, right? So basically what he said, or what he realized was, because he got this milestone to be finished within less than a year, even with delivery, that he would not be able to do that because just the sourcing part would take him almost up to a year. Why is that so complicated? And just a rough intro for the non-procurement people in the audience. So in traditional organizations, it's very transactional. So sometimes there are even other departments, where the business hands over some specifications to procurement. Procurement does the tender documents, does the tendering, and then they get the proposals. And with these proposals, they are not yet done. They need to go into negotiations. And basically, we are almost delivering no value to the end user during that time. So we asked Daniel came to us and he said, well, I need something that is much faster and is much more focused on delivering value earlier. And he asked us, can we do that? Is lean agile procurement that thing that could do that? And I said, yes. So very roughly, and we're going to deep dive into that in a minute. So what are we doing? So back to the initial hypothesis, if we have just one day to do something super complex, then I would simplify, if I need to simplify what we are doing, is we are bringing the right people together, right? So decision takers, vendors, end users, IT, whatever is needed to decide and find a solution. So we took this principle of forming a cross-functional team, and this is exactly what we are doing. So we take the people that are supposed to be in delivery from the buyer side to the very beginning. It's like, if you're familiar with the DevOps concept, it's like DevOps on steroids. So instead of just having developers and operations, security and so forth in the team, we add everybody else needed from the beginning of the value stream. And so this has several advantages. So Daniel, as a head of finance, became the product owner because he knew exactly what the vision looks like, what kind of ERP solution and new ways of working with this tool he was looking for. And we added people from procurement, compliance, accounting, HR, obviously IT, from the buyer side at the very beginning. So this is step one. We set up a cross-functional team and align and empower it with the help of the key stakeholders. In step two, the team does everything that needs to be done to prepare the big room event. The big room event is nothing else that we invite the shortlisted vendors. So the potential partners the team thinks has the optimal solution, etc. And we invite them all simultaneously in one big room. In our days, obviously, also virtually. And the purpose of this big room workshop is to let them co-create their proposals and answer any question that is that should be answered from either side. And I will show you that in more detail. So that's the basic approach. So working cross-functional, obviously Scrum is our operating model. It's the most effective way to operate as a cross-functional team. And later on, the team will be extended by the vendor, by our partner, or depending on the case, form a team of teams. So this is the first big change, that we overcome those transactional way and keep the ownership from the beginning. So we are not forming a Scrum team that does the sourcing and then they hand it over to another delivery team consisting just of the vendor. No, this team takes over ownership throughout the whole life cycle from idea till delivery. And the first thing they're going to do is sourcing. So next radical mind shift was, how can we get rid of all these detailed specifications, which, let's be honest, will change anyway in a complex sourcing case like an ERP. And we got inspired by the business development, which we used to specify business cases on 100 pages and more. And in our days, we use just one page, the business model canvas, for example. And by doing that, we create focus, we have a nice summary, and we accept that this is a living document. So we accept uncertainty. We said that's awesome from a concept point of view, but for sourcing, it's not enough. So we developed a lean procurement canvas, which we're roughly on the right-hand side, we have the buyer side who is looking for a partner, a product, a service. On the left-hand side, it's the partner, the vendor, and we share the why. So what's the vision of this ERP system, to go back to the case? What are the business objectives of this case? And by the way, who is our customer? Who are the users of that system and what are their needs? And we leave it to the vendors, our partner, to come up with solutions and services and so forth to solve those needs. So we start with why, over to what, to how. And the foundation of everything are the people. So we put the people from the buyer side, from the cross-functional team, as well as the partner. And so we added a new dimension, like beside the business fit, it's still important. Price is still important. The product, the functions, etc., are still important. But as important are the social and culture fit. Do we like those guys? Do we want to? Can we? Will the collaboration work? And we need to test that, and we do that in the big room event. So at least for Switzerland and Swiss law, we found the holy grail. The lean procurement canvas is the most lean agile contract in the world. So have a look at it. It covers everything you need to put into a contract. So very roughly, again, the approach. So we start with the business model canvas. We can take over a bunch of information already from it. The team does everything a usual people in business and procurement do, but they do it as a team. Just as an example, if you need to draft a contract, we invite the lawyer and we do it. We just get shit done. And usually this takes 1-2 hours and we have it. So no more sending the documents in correction mode back and forth. And and then you see each vendor in the big room event has its own canvas, and they will come up with their proposals, their ideas, their pricing, their solution. And so our aim in the big room event is to come to a decision, sign the contract, test the collaboration, and even set up a joint cross-functional team for delivery. So yeah, depending on the case, you might do even more than that. We found out that the canvas could be used also very nicely as a partner management tool. So I said initially it's a living document. So we started with an initial vision, with initial business objectives, timing, and so forth. And over time, we just adapt. And this could become a very nice tool to track the partnership with our vendor and the whole team. And it turned out also as a very cool tool to assess an existing partnership. So maybe you don't need to source a new partner, you are already in a partnership. So this gives you clarity. What's our direction? What are our frame conditions? And what's our budget and all this stuff? So if you're an Agile coach, a Scrum Master, have a look at it, because it will be valuable no matter if you are working just internally and setting up or assessing an internal team or a team cross companies. It's just, very useful to set up a team in less than an hour. Yeah, so back to the case, so that you get a flavor what we do. So we said in step 1, we are setting up a cross-functional team. Now, setting up a cross-functional team is like a chicken egg problem. We need to know what's the vision, mission, objectives, constraints. We need to understand that first, and then we could find the right capabilities and team members. But without some first people, we can't come up with those conversations. So we invite potential core team members, bring them together with the main stakeholders, and just have a conversation. What do you want to do with this ERP system? What are if we have 3 business objectives, what are those? What's the priority? What's the weighting of these business objectives? What are time constraints, other business technical constraints we need to take into consideration? And such a kickoff workshop usually lasts between 4 and 8 hours, something like that. And then we have an internal agreement about the alignment and the boundaries, and the team could start working. Empowerment as important. The team needs a certain level of decision competence. Otherwise, we are in the old trap of decision latency. So in step 2, I mentioned the team does just everything to understand the scope better on one hand, but also to invite, come to a short list of potential partners and find an optimal solution. Now, what are we doing? We are slicing down the business objectives. First things first, we ask who is our customer, who will use this ERP system. So we made a series of workshops with people from accounting, payroll, HR, and so forth. And we asked them, what are your needs? What are your processes? What's the priority? What are the absolute must-haves and which are the nice-to-haves? And the nice-to-haves we even didn't consider. So this is for procurement folks in the audience. This is a nice and very effective way to create savings by not sourcing the nice-to-haves. from experience, this is has a potential up to 80%, right? If you are familiar with the Pareto principle. So yeah, so the team also did a market research based on that needs, and our budget and so forth, which solution could make sense. What solution providers fit our needs, and so they came up also with the short list. And then, yeah, before that, just then as inspiration, so this customer-centric way of working. So if you're, just for the people that are not in software, this is another example from Echo, a company that produces tractors. They got inspired by that, and they said, wow, what if we take the tractors into its pieces, invite our engineering, product management, procurement, just everybody that has a stake in that internally, and invite also our vendors, our current vendors and their competitors, and ask them for new ideas, new materials, new production process, production steps, how we could, simplify the components and so forth. So very, very effective, this principle of getting the right people together. Back to the ERP case. So in step 3, we invited, in this case, three vendors. And what you're seeing here is on the very left, it's the CFO. He's talking about the company's vision, his personal vision for the new ERP system. And this often drives already questions on the vendor side. And there we have the forum to discuss about all that and answer it immediately. So what is also important is the cross-functional team from the buyer side was there, decision takers were there, real users were there, and we asked the same from the vendors. So they showed up with their decision takers, their sales specialists, but we were even more interested in the people we might work with. So that we made that a condition to get in touch with those guys from delivery as well. And as we had the people from delivery in the same room, we run a proof of concept in parallel. So not just shiny presentations, we have the best product, the best references and everything, and we show you the product, all the things that anyway work. We gave them a backlog of the most challenging things or things that the team was unhappy with the current solution. And we let them implement it throughout the 2 days. And so we could also test their forecasting, what if they were wrong in their forecast, how they react on such situations, and quite insightful. So that you get a flavor of what you're doing. So we have specified, so for the people that are familiar with Scrum, so that those are user stories, so described customer needs with acceptance criteria each, with a business value estimation each as well. And we handed over to all the 3 vendors a staple of 80, 90 cards, and we asked them, estimate it now in front of us. We gave them 30 minutes, which was not enough time at all, but we had 2 objectives with this exercise. We wanted that they get familiar with the scope, and second, we wanted to test how they reacted on the stress. And it was fascinating to observe. One of the vendors, the most senior guy, took over and run almost in a burnout, while the other vendors split it up nicely into subgroups and came up with the right questions. Which one you take, right? So we took all that into consideration. Now, we were aware that this definition of the scope was just a snapshot in time. So this, in our case, this was not becoming part of the contract. Instead, we let them, each of the vendors, create an agile roadmap, which you can see on the right. So each of the column was a 1 month time box. So they decided how much time boxes they will need. And each row was business objectives, acceptance criteria, so that they and we could know when the objectives have been met, and even metrics that we could measure, are we on track. So this, we iterated several times on this roadmap until it became our joint roadmap. So it's no more, just to remember, we are forming, in this case, we have been forming a joint, we were forming a joint Scrum team. So it was important that both parties became one party and they could agree on this joint roadmap. So yeah, one case with Air France, in my opinion, they nailed it. So the three parties, three competitors have been in the same room. They were observing each other, what they were doing, what they were estimating there, and so forth. They were presenting to each other their intermediate results. And they were learning from each other, you know. Sometimes some of the discussions were confidential, and we held them in private rooms. But the beauty of having everybody in the same location, in this big room, was that if something occurred that was relevant for everybody, we immediately could share it so that they could improve their proposals. So it was about steal and tweak their solutions, their estimation, their plan, etc., so that we could then in the end choose the best of it. So yeah, they presented intermediate results, and it was fascinating because after 5 minutes, at least the people in delivery forgot that the others are competitors. Not so the leadership, obviously. Yeah, in this story, what was interesting in particular was that an ERP system is super complex, not just in a technology-wise, interfaces and processes and such, but the whole, from a commercial point of view, the whole licensing model was super complex. And as we realized that, we paused the workshop and we asked the three competitors to come together at one table, or to this flip chart over here, and we asked them, could you please forget for the next 15 minutes that you are competitors and co-create the optimal licensing model together for our context? And they just did. So I mentioned this workshop with the three vendors took us 2 days. Depending on the case, it could be hours. We had one case where it took us 4 days, so it really depends on the case. And there is plenty of time to talk about everything: concerns, risks, questions, and we want to resolve those immediately. That's why we are there. So no more proposals where we have a list of assumptions and risks, and if that happens, our estimation is crap and so forth. No, let's talk about all that. In New Zealand, we had a case in public sector, Auckland Council, where it was super fascinating having a lawyer in the team, because he came up with a real crazy idea nobody expected. So what you see on the very right is just an abstract visualization of a contractual framework. And what we usually do is we prepare in the agile cross-functional team at the buyer side all the legal documents, so that the vendors just could stick on that. Now, in the past, we tried to understand the vendors' contractual frameworks, which is really inefficient because we have 3 or more different contracts to understand, compare, and so forth. Now, in this case, it didn't work out that the Auckland Council could say, hey, this is our framework and you need to stick to that, because every of the vendors had a totally different business case. So one of them treated them as a project, others as a subscription, and so forth. So the lawyer came out, said, well, we won't have any time to understand the different contractual frameworks. Instead, I propose that we just trust. And everybody in the team was like, what? You, a lawyer, you said? So he's, to be precise, we don't even look at it, okay? And that was like, no way. He came up with a proposal that we put a paper, their ambition was a 1-pager, they ended up with 3 pages, with the major things that was the most important to the team and most important to be compliant and most important for delivery and so forth. So what they did, they put that in first priority. And so during the workshop, they just needed to talk about those 3-pager and agree on that. And everything else was just lower priority from a legal perspective. Quite cool, isn't it? So we obviously, it also has a commercial side. So this ERP case, we had negotiations. Now the negotiations are slightly different. So we co-created with the vendors a cost structure, like in this case, it was a cost ceiling, payment time material. There were some licenses that needed to be sorted out, and a maintenance fee and so forth. And we had conversations about it, you know, what do we mean with 24/7, for example? And so we had this private session with each of the vendors. Sometimes we needed to iterate on it. They just put their numbers on the flip chart. They signed it, done. That was the negotiation, right? Obviously, we had some conversations throughout the workshop and also in the sessions, but they were more honest, more based on agile values. So, for example, if somebody came in with a much higher price than their competitors, we asked them, you know, we were transparent. We said, well, we realized you have a higher price than the others. Which risk do you see that the others don't? And often we uncovered very important things the others didn't consider. Or the opposite way, we asked them, which of our requirements, constraints, conditions is a cost driver for you and your solution? You're willing to adapt. And there is a huge potential to have this more honest, we call it commercial conversation, instead of playing a hard play game in the old-fashioned way. So yeah, I mentioned we run a proof of concept. So every end of the day, we had a demo. So each of the vendors presented their solutions, and we invited the real users, so accountants, HR people, and so forth, showed up, and they could ask questions. And we also asked them for their feedback. Which of those vendors do you like the most? Which was the most experienced one, and so on. So yeah, in the end, obviously the team was empowered to decide, and they chose vendor A from ABC. But something unexpected happened. From vendor B, they said to the guy with the crown here on the image, "You're an extraordinary person. Would you like to join our team as well?" And everybody was like, oh, we didn't expect that, and we needed to sort out the commercials, you know, is it a subcontracting, a direct contract, whatever. And after 20 minutes, done. So the team was set up, and even delivery was tested already, and commercial was sorted out. So next day, they could continue delivery. Some numbers. So this was at the end of the year, December 2018. The green bars are the days where the cross-functional team on the buyer side came together and worked as a Scrum team. And so not so many days. They achieved a lot, having just everybody there, the whole capabilities, decision-taking just happened. And it was also very efficient for the vendors, which basically just needed to show up, right? And everything happened during the 2 days. Still, there is a lot of room for improvement. So it could have been done within 2 weeks. In general, we are 4 to 8 times faster than traditional approaches. To be fair, if the context, if the case is complex, please do not set up a cross-functional team to buy some stationery, for example. It's also less effort. And as I said, if we do not source the nice-to-haves, there is a huge potential of savings. And yeah, we are looking for this social and culture fit, so the team could decide which vendor, which people, do we like those guys, or do we like the other better, even though they are more expensive. That became a crucial decision criteria as well. We always do surveys throughout the company internally, so their stakeholders, the cross-functional team, but also throughout the invited vendors. And even the one that didn't make it recommends the approach. It says it's much more fair, it's much more efficient, please just apply that, it just makes sense. So sounds like heaven. Well, we have challenges, and if you start to apply something like that, you will expect exactly those challenges we had, and we are facing those in every new case. And please, just that you understand, this company, Daniel's company, was not agile at all, right? So this is possible in a very traditional culture. The only thing you need is a pain, for example, time constraint or a competitive advantage. You're looking for a competitive advantage or such. So which are the challenges? So forming a cross-functional team is obviously a challenge because the good people are not sitting around, they're occupied with other duties. And my recommendation is, if we do not get at least 2 days a week as a starting point, don't start. Don't. Then the topic is not as important, which then often leads to an interesting portfolio question. Do we have the transparency about all the projects and which is the most important one, and so forth. Handling 3 or more vendors simultaneously is obviously a challenge, especially if you think of doing that virtually. We have had 10 vendors in a room where we, for example, told them not a single one will make it, but we ask you to form alliances, and there you need some big group moderation capabilities. Often HR people have it, so just partner up with those. Stay in the driver's seat is not easy. So in this case, for example, one of the consultancies on the vendor side was one of the big 3, and they said, well, nice, you gave us your general terms, conditions, we can't accept that, you need to take hours. And we just rejected. We said, no, that's a killer. That will take us too much time to understand it and so forth. So, but we are willing to adapt ours so that you are still compliant. So that's not a nice discussion, but it's important that you're the customer and you need to be in the driver's seat. Often lawyers have no clue what an agile contract is. Help them, include them from the start, because they need to pitch their capabilities as well to make this all work. Yeah, so what's the sorry, Siri is trying to become part of the conversation. So yeah, some recommendations: leave your comfort zone, start to think outside of the box. Maybe you don't want to apply lean agile procurement full stack, but think of smaller steps. You know, how can we gather the customer needs more effectively? Let's invite those people instead of talking about their needs. Experiment with the canvas. Yeah, and try to create a positive impact, because it will become a win-win. So if you want to know more, we are partnering with the biggest alliances in procurement, commercial, contracting space, but also more and more from the agile space. Yeah, visit our website. It's on the next slide if you want to know more. And if you just got infected and you want to know how it works, learn the practices we apply, etc., then look up our next workshop. Yeah, we have also at least one trainer who speaks Portuguese. So not sure if you're looking for Spanish, but English is definitely an option. So thank you very much for interest, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mirko. Thanks for taking the time. Very interesting. Oh, I'm still on mute. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Mirko? Still on mute. Okay, I just switched microphone. I hope you can hear me. Can you? Okay. I think people can hear me. Can you hear me, Mirko?
Yeah, I just unplugged my headphone. Now I can hear you. Sorry for that.
Yeah, now I think I switched the micros. I tried to switch to my other mic again. I hope that worked. So can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks a lot to you, and for everybody that has questions, we have a little bit more time. So Mirko is happy to answer questions. Please write your question in English or in Spanish in the Q&A section, and I will pick some questions, and the Spanish ones I'm going to translate, so Mirko can answer what we are able to answer. Until now, we only have one, so let's start with this question. Let me read that. Okay, what are the learnings and risks you see, especially with lawyers, breaking traditional schemes of contract negotiations?
Very good question. So my personal experience with the lawyers are that they're quite open-minded people. Maybe there are these guys everybody has in mind that won't listen and just yeah, serves his template and that's it. But if we just imagine if you offer them a seat at the table from the beginning, So we explain to everybody, even to the lawyers included, that we want to work differently throughout sourcing, but also throughout delivery. They usually just buy in and want to learn more. And then with the help of the canvas, we get all the contents like collaboration model, commercial model, direction constraints, where the lawyers then could translate that into a legal document. So yeah, my recommendation is really include them. And if you realize they have no clue about Agile and they will never get it, then you might look for a lawyer, an external, a third-party one that supports you in the process and enables your internal lawyers.
Okay, thanks, Mirko. Here's another question from Mauricio. I think that goes in the direction of examples and cases. So what is the indicator that you were improving with Agile, Scrum, and procurement in those projects that you know? Savings, lead time reduction in the buying process, better service. What's the best result you've ever seen?
I think the ERP example that I showed you is very promising, because that's something nobody thinks it's possible to do it that fast. We have had one case where the supplier was given, it was a preferred supplier, and we just renegotiated everything with the help of the canvas within an hour, which took them usually weeks, right? I'm currently supporting a federal agency, and in the public sector, it's insane. And I think it's similar in your region, at least in Switzerland, it's insane. The sourcing process sometimes for super complex things takes not just months, it takes years. And so if we think more in time to market, which implies cost of delay. If we improve cost of delay, that could mean it's not about savings. You know, we got this ERP 10% cheaper, or the service fees 10% cheaper, or whatever. It's about earlier impact for the business. If we have the thing, the service, the product delivered earlier, that could mean millions, right? From a business perspective. So that's actually one of the best way to pitch it. You know, we can have this, I usually say it's an invitation. We can do it a traditional way, very painful, takes 6 to 12 months in average, or we do this experimental thing, I mean, at least in their mind, and we are done within 2-3 weeks.
Sounds like a pretty great result, or pretty great results. And there's another question from Raphael. So give me a second to read it. So how do you establish in the contract negotiation that the scope is variable? And what's the most complicated part of that? And additionally, well, in the client's mind, there's the idea that you pay for quantity, or for the number of functions. Mm-hmm. They don't want more or less. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, very good question as well. So in the area of Agile, I mean, I think everybody knows the sweet spot of Agile in the audience. So it's not about things we can specify and then we just execute it. It's really where we expect a lot of uncertainty and surprises. So in the complex space, it just makes no sense to specify on a very detailed level, because the things will change anyway. Especially in the software domain, we know that from experience that the customer doesn't know what they really want until they see it, right? I think most of us have experienced that. So what we do instead is we try to fix the budget and time. And a good practice is to fix the scope on a very high level. So sometimes that could be just a vision. So how can AI support our business as an insurance or whatever? That was one specification of the scope in one of our cases. Or if we know more, like in this ERP case, we fixed the business objectives. We came out with and key results on a very high level that was given, that was the direction given by the leadership and the cross-functional team. And then based on that, we tried to slice it down and develop an agile roadmap where we slice down the business objectives and kind of fix the scope on an abstract high level, which gave us still the freedom of choice while sprinting and delivering incremental learning. Is this what the customer wanted? We still could adapt it within the given budget and time. In terms of the numbers of functions, it's different because we shift the point of view away from solutions and functions towards which needs we want to resolve, right? So Daniel, for example, he said one of his needs, and that was almost an objective, I want to create a company report with one click so that I know where the company is up to from a commercial perspective. Now, this is huge, right? But it includes a lot in terms of usability, etc. Now, we're focusing to the needs. We solve problems that should be solved, right? Recently, a CTO, I explained him this concept, and the CTO said, well, in the past, we sourced a system, and later on, we tried to find out what we can use it for. And that's a really expensive way of sourcing. And we flipped the coin, say, let's think about first, right? What are the needs? Ask the users, the accountant in this ERP example, ask the HR people what they really, really need to make their job better and more effectively. Hope that answers the question.
I think it does. Let's see what we have. Karina Millicent asks, what indicator could you use to measure transparency in the buying process, on the procurement process?
Well, that's a new one. Never occurred so far. I mean, procurement might be weird to most of the people in the audience, but in the end, it's just another practice, like whatever, IT, security, quality assurance, etc. So they face exactly the same problems that we observed in other domains, and so transparency. I mean, it's hard to find that KPI or something that fits it all. But for me, it's really about, we are sprinting, right? So why not inviting not just the users, the stakeholders? In other cases, we are inviting real end customers to our sprint reviews and ask them for feedback. Are we heading in the right direction? So this is the level of transparency we are looking for, and we are used to in delivery, but we are not in sourcing or in strategic decisions or whatever. So include the people, bring the right people together, as easy as that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. There's another question from Mauricio. And what cases did you make mistakes, and what's your learning from that? Is there something that we could take away, like from you, mistakes, basically, to not repeat.
So some pitfalls, is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the very first case 5 years back, we were not so encouraged to do everything in these 2 days. So we postponed the commercial negotiations to later. Please don't do. Because just imagine the vendor already knew he won. It was a very bad situation then to negotiate the commercials. So that's definitely something. And the other big advice, two more, the internal people as well as the vendors you're gonna invite need to understand what will happen so that they bring in the right people. Right, and that because if they don't, we are quite intransparent what will happen on the big room workshop usually, because we want to put them under stress. So that we usually don't share the detailed agenda, but we need to make sure that they feel safe, that they show up, that they show up with the right people. And so that's something important. And then the other one I already mentioned, you know, if we don't get the bounding conditions right from the beginning, like the people are dedicated or as dedicated as possible to this cross-functional team, we don't start. Then it's not important. It's the same thing for the certain level of empowerment. We need it. We really have internal negotiation kind of with the help of the delegation board. I really recommend that from a management 3.0, where you could negotiate the decision competences between a cross-functional team and its environments. I would never ever start a cross-functional team, Scrum team, any agile team without that.
Thanks a lot. Also, some good points to take away here. We have only 2 more minutes left, or 3 more minutes according to my watch. So there's one more question, it's more a general question. So I think I'm gonna take that. It's Anna's question. She's asking, is it possible to use agile methodologies and management processes, for instances, accounting, treasury, legal, etc.? But I would say it's definitely possible. As you could see, it's possible in compras, or in procurement, what Mirko just explained. We had a whole webinar series to see how you can use Scrum in different areas, including human resources, including marketing. You can do it in legal, we do it in legal, we do it in accounting internally, for example. So it's definitely possible. Obviously, every area has its own challenges, but it is definitely possible. With that said, I don't know, Mirko, if you want to put your contact details or anything in the chat, if people want to reach out to you. If not, we can also send them out later with an email. This webinar is recorded, so everybody that's here or at least was registered will receive access to the recording. The recording is in English only. But I would like to say, first of all, thanks a lot to you, Mirko, for taking the time to talk to us here. Thanks obviously to our team in the background, the translator, Juan and Angie is organizing the technical part. And thanks to all our participants that have taken out probably your lunch hour to listen to Agile and Scrum and procurement. So if you want to know more, I invite you to our webpage, scrumnetwork.com. I'm going to put it in the chat, scrumnetwork.com. If you want to know more about Scrum, you can also have a look at my book that came out a few months ago. And please be aware of our next webinar. We will have a pretty interesting topic. We won't reveal that right now, but we'll send out information. So thanks to everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. And I hope you will have a good day. So muchas gracias. Thanks a lot. Y nos vemos.
Muchas gracias.